The most recent episode of House of the Dragon concluded in a way that not only gave the Blacks the strength that they needed to strike first, but it was also the hottest closing 10 minutes that we've had this season. I'd say even hotter than episode 4. With Rhaenyra now having 3 new Dragonriders that are considered mongrels by the likes of Jace, her strength has just increased threefold. With these riders being drip-fed to us throughout the entirety of Season 2, I thought it would now be worth looking at the characters a bit more and trying to answer why it is that they were the lucky few that paired with a dragon without being burnt to a crisp. So let's jump into the video and answer exactly that. Here is the new Dragonriders in House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 7 explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Hugh Hammer. Within episode 7 of the show, Hugh was the first person that we saw claim a dragon and Dragonstone. He'd always kept the secret from his wife Cat that he had Targaryen blood running within him. This is one of the main reasons as to why Vermithor so easily claimed Hugh as his rider. However, unlike many of the other people that tried to claim a dragon whose lineage was distant and broken up, Hugh was actually a cousin of Viserys and Daemon. His mother was the apparent sister to Balon Targaryen. It's said that his mother worked in a pleasure house and was granted more freedom than others due to the fact that she had silver hair, and people were more interested in that. I think the fact that Hugh's bloodline is so close and direct to that of Targaryens that are still alive and have only just left the throne, that was something that contributed to the pairing of them being so seamless, rather than the bloodline being so distant and from many generations ago. As well as that, I think the way that Hugh behaved contributed to Vermithor taking a liking to him and accepting him as his rider. Vermithor is also known as the Bronze Fury and is the second largest dragon in the realm, second to none other than Vhagar. Hugh's personality when on Dragonstone was one which embodied that of fury and rage. He'd lost his daughter and was only there because he felt like he had no other option. He wanted to change his and Cat's life and he was prepared to die for it. This is because what they had in King's Landing was no longer worth living for in his eyes. It was a mess. This allowed him to not back down or run away in fear like many of the other half-blood Targaryens. He screamed at Vermithor, showing he wasn't going to back down, and I think Vermithor respected that, as he probably wanted somebody that would match the personality that he had. The dragon is almost supposed to reflect its rider, and that was definitely the case here. I also think the selfless nature that Hugh had in pushing the woman out of the way in order to sacrifice himself was something that the dragon respected. These dragons are considered as gods, remember that, and they most likely take note of every trait of somebody that wishes to pair with it. Hugh and Vermithor feel like the perfect pairing when it comes to personalities, so I'm looking forward to seeing just how the both of them are going to get on. I will be delving into book spoilers at the end of the video, so if you want to see what happens there, then continue watching for that. Ulf. The second person that we saw in this episode bonding with a dragon was Ulf. Right at the end of the episode, we saw that as he was fleeing from the chaos that was ensuing with Vermithor and him burning through everybody other than Hugh, Ulf ended up in a cave where he thought that he was safe and alone, but in reality, it was the opposite. He ended up in a cave where Silverwing was resting, and Ulf even stood and cracked some of her eggs. This was a moment where I thought it would become clear that Ulf would most likely be toast. Destroying an egg surely feels like something which a dragon would consider the most disrespectful thing that could be done. However, the opposite occurred. Silverwing playfully pushed over Ulf, and whilst he laid there willing to accept his fate that he'd be killed, Silverwing retreated slightly. And then from there, we saw him in the sky flying Silverwing over King's Landing, showing that the both of them were now paired together, and that Rhaenyra had 2 new riders from all of the part Targaryens that she summoned to Dragonstone. So why did Ulf bond so quickly with Silverwing and in a completely different fashion to what Hugh had to do with Vermithor? Vermithor's pairing was that of destruction, death, danger, and it being a process where he almost had to prove himself, whereas with Silverwing, it was the opposite. The moment she laid eyes on Ulf, she knew that she wanted to be paired with him. Well, like Hugh, Ulf supposedly had close connections to the current Targaryen bloodline. He said in the 3rd episode of Season 2 that he was a grandchild of former King Jaehaerys I and could well be a half-brother of Viserys and Daemon. This is something that he always boasted about when in the local drinking tavern, but in reality, he didn't actually know if it was true at all or just a story that he was told. As we saw in this episode where he was reluctant to go to Dragonstone because he didn't know if he trusted his heritage. One would have to assume that Silverwing paired with him so quickly because that is actually the case and he is a Targaryen, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to have bonded. So I think, like Hugh, he is closely connected to those that are still alive, and that's one of the main contributing factors. Silverwing probably sensed that. As well as that, the reasoning for the contrast in approach to Vermithor is that Silverwing is said to be a dragon that is a lot calmer than Vermithor. Hence why there was no bloodshed, fire, or flames, and a more playful approach. So we saw a real difference in personalities between the two dragons in this episode, and the way in which they decided to choose their pairings. Spoilers from the books. So within the books, both Hugh Hammer and Ulf ended up going on to betray Rhaenyra, as they believed that they deserved more for their contribution to the cause of the Blacks. As Jace expressed his concern in the most recent episode of the show, with getting people that have not been raised as Targaryens to bond with a dragon, it gives what are described as commoners extreme power. Power that they've never experienced before, and something that not many people possess, and Rhaenyra even mentioned that in the trailer for the upcoming finale. So with their betrayal, it will take the power that Rhaenyra now has, and the very thing that has given her the advantage, over to the opposition, and it will be used against her, proving her son's biggest fear right. When it comes to the Dance of the Dragons, they'll both fight for the Blacks at the start. However, when it comes to the first Battle of Tumbleton, Ulf and Hugh Hammer will go on to betray the Blacks and ultimately side with the Greens. It's during the second Battle of Tumbleton where Hugh falls in battle, and following that, Ulf ends up being poisoned and killed as he wanted to lay claim to the Iron Throne. Both Ulf and Hugh ultimately felt as though they deserved more. They were knights, but they wanted to be lords. Their desire for more power is what ultimately causes their downfall. So although they seem very loyal after their small inclusion in Season 2, I imagine in Season 3 we're gonna see that betrayal and the cunning nature that they have starting to come to fruition. Right now, Rhaenyra has the strength with her, with 3 new Dragonriders, and I'm hoping in the final episode we'll get to see an epic battle. It seems like Aemond is going to be tasking Helena with flying Dreamfire into battle, so that means we could well see potentially up to 7 dragons in the finale. Syrax, Silverwing, Vermithor, Seasmoke, Vhagar, Dreamfire, Caraxes, and Virmax. I doubt they'll all go into battle, as that could potentially leave them with none if they all get killed, but you never know, it will make for a spectacle in the finale. Let's also remember as well, Rhaena has now fled and is looking for the dragon that's in the wild, so we could well see her bond with that dragon and go back to Rhaenyra and join that fight. Either way, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen and exactly how this finale is going to unfold. So, there you have it, the new Dragonriders in House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 7 explained. If you want to see more videos on House of the Dragon Season 2, then click on the card in the top corner. There's a playlist there where I break down the episodes from the second season, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Which dragon are you most excited to see in battle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.